to another episode of the Wanderlust Wealth Show. Today, we have two awesome people, Abby and Mess. I actually found them on Instagram because they commented on a post and they said that they were house hacking and had been house hacking since 2022. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys have to be on the podcast because this is literally all I talk about. So I'm so excited to have you guys here and just to chat about your journey and inspire more people to get started investing in real estate. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Abby and Mess. So before you guys got started investing in real estate, before all of it, who were you guys? Like, what were you doing in life?
You want to start or?
I can go first. So, before then, obviously we're partners. We're life partners. He's now my fiance.
Congrats!
Thank you. And we actually weren't engaged yet when we bought our property, but we were out of college for some time, and that's where we met. Been together at that point about 6 years, and it was in 2 years out of college at that point for me anyway. And then he was a couple of years ahead of me, so he was out and about just working. And then 2021 or 2020? That we moved in together.
Oh no, it was 2020.
Yeah, so 2020, I graduated that year, and then we decided to move in together. And we were in our apartment for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess you guys said that you were studying beforehand. Like, what were you guys studying for? What were you doing before?
Yeah. So in college, I was a business major. And I graduated with a minor economics, business administration degree. But I always knew I wanted to be a landlord. So like when I was like really, really young, the landlord that I was living with my mom would come to the house. And so like, my mom would always have us like clean up the house, make sure everything's smelling good. And then like, she would like bake cookies and make him a meal. And I'm just like, is this guy? Is this some random guy? I'm just like, and my mom just treats him so good. And she's like, oh, that's the landlord. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I want to be this dude when I grow up. And then I kind of like started digging into real estate and kind of like figuring out like, well, yeah, what does he do? And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was 20 years old. So that kind of jump started like my whole like mindset shift of like, what I want to do and just like learning about assets and learning about liabilities and stuff like that. And so I've just been like obsessed with the idea of real estate ever since.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so this is really interesting. Why did your mom treat the landlord so well? Because, you hear about so many horror stories, right, from landlords like, oh my gosh, my tenant did this, my tenant did that. So like, what was that mentality that your mom had?
Well, my mom is sweet to everybody, first and foremost. And then, I don't know, she's... Well, it's really just about like making sure you're on good standing with the person who has like the ability to like have you live there or not. It's like obviously you want your impression to be very highly when you're talking to the landlord or interacting with the landlord, because you obviously want to show them that like you are a good tenant, and so that kind of translated in how she behaved around him. And I also listened to this other YouTuber, I forgot his name, but he was saying the same thing, kind of like when he would get to his house and he was house hacking, and he would see the other family that was in the other side of the duplex, and all the kids used to say, "Oh, the landlord's here, mom, the landlord's here," and then like it's just always so like happy go lucky, but even though like obviously there's the horror stories, but like I don't know, it's just a position of power, and people like respect this person because they like the way you live, like that state is in their hands. So it's like,
yeah, and that's so interesting too, because like that we all have the opportunity and the option to either be the landlord or the renter, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the landlord, and this comes to work as well, right? So you can either be the business owner or you can be the employee.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the landlord and the business employee, they have the real like responsibility, right?
Yeah,
like at the end of they're the ones paying the taxes, they're the ones paying all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, they own it. It's the same thing like you own your clothes, right? So you have control over what happens to them. Sure, you could rent them out to people, but they don't own it. So it's so interesting that like, you know, how like the mentality around like landlords versus tenants is a little bit different per state, right? Because it's like, it always like baffles me when tenants have like more rights than owners. It's just like, excuse me, you don't own the property.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Oh my gosh. Okay, awesome. So, okay, you said that you had been interested in real estate for a while, and it was mainly because of that relationship that you saw with your mom and the landlord. What was it in particular, though, especially once you started reading like Rich Dad Poor Dad and things like that, that really interested you about like real estate?
So essentially, it's a game where it's very simple. Like, and I'm not gonna say passive because it's real estate is definitely not passive, but like it has that like that thing to it to kind of like seems like you're collecting passive income, even though obviously it's definitely not as passive as people think it is. But
it can be passive if you have the right systems in place.
Yeah. And just like understanding the numbers and the math and loans, like you're going to get a loan and you're going to have an asset and there's going to be somebody that's going to be paying for it.
Yeah.
And it really just came down to that simple. And I'm just like, okay, kind of like took a step back. Like I'm not the smartest person. I'm not a genius. So like, it's not like I'm going to invent something and get rich that way. And I was just like, well, I like houses and I want to be a landlord. So like, this is the perfect mix, like of what I want to do. And just looking at the numbers and the breakdown of like the mortgage, you have the interest and the principal payment and then appreciation and then the tax write-offs. It's like, how could you not invest in the real estate? It's like the best. It's the best thing.
I mean, I agree. But yeah, I mean, it's like at the end of the day, it really is, number one, just a numbers game. And it's not that freaking hard.
Yeah, really.
So it's like for the average person out there, real estate is going to be the easiest way for you to like, or actually, let's not say easiest, the simplest way for you to get wealthy.
Yeah.
I guess, how about you, Abby? Like, what interested you about real estate and what were you doing before you even got started investing in real estate?
So I started school in 2016. He started in 2014. So we were 2 years apart. And I also was a business major. So I started off in business and then I graduated with a business administration and an accounting minor. And
I love that.
Yeah. So with the accounting stuff, like you get introduced with, doing taxes, doing a lot of things that have to do with real estate in the long run. And so kind of that background and, talking to him and being together, he's the one who had introduced me to kind of the real estate world and then marrying it with accounting.
Yeah. Definitely the power
Which is
couple.
a big part of it because like I know a lot of people struggle with the accounting part. So you guys are how old? 27 and 28, is that correct?
Yep.
And you own how many properties?
We have 2 right now.
That's freaking awesome because like literally so many people, especially nowadays, like the number of people I come across that they're just like, I'm never going to be able to buy a property. Like it's too far gone. And it's just like, guys, that is just so not true.
Right.
Like, so I guess, do you have any like friends or peers around you who are also investing in real estate, or were you guys kind of the ones who spearheaded that?
So I have a friend still. He owns a duplex just like 20 minutes away. So like we're in Rhode Island and the place that nobody thinks exists. We're in Rhode Island and my friend is in Massachusetts, but we're like on the border. But he still has a 2-family and he lives in one side, rents out the other side. But the other side covers the whole entire mortgage. So he lives for free. And he actually rents like a bedroom in his unit to his brother. So he still kind of makes some money.
Oh yeah.
And so like, and he's big into construction. So like everything DIY that I've learned is all been through him. And so he's definitely been a blessing to like have in my pocket just to understand the cost of everything, just like renovations, and just the process of like doing remodels and dealing with tenants. So like I definitely got a cheat code in my pocket. So
No, that's so great though. Wait, what were you going to say?
Oh yeah. And I have a mentor. He's like one of the premier real estate agents in Boston, and he owns a couple of properties. So like I would bounce ideas off of him as well.
Okay, fantastic. So how did you find this mentor, right? Because there's so many people who come to me. They're like, I want you to be my mentor. And I'm like, I'm kind of expensive. So feel free to join. But like, if you want one-on-one time with me, like it's going to cost you a pretty penny. And that's why I kind of created the coaching program to make it more accessible for people. But like, how did you find your mentor? Because so many people are trying to find mentors. And I know I do mentor people even for free sometimes, but there's like a give and take there, right?
Yeah. So at first, so we lived in a small town, like in on the suburbs of Boston. So like, there's a lot of people that like you just know, and like, I've known that he was a realtor, and at the time when I was like 20 years old, I wanted to be a realtor, and so I literally just went to him and I said, like, can you teach me everything you know about being a realtor and just real estate? And he was like, sure, like come to XYZ. So we would meet up a bunch of times, and he would talk about like the realtor exam and just being a real estate agent. And most importantly, he was a landlord, which I didn't know. I just knew he was a realtor. And then he's talking to me about all his investments. And so I was like, all right, cool. Like, this is great. Like, and it's like free information. It's like, I think if you reach out to people that are like very ambitious, it's like, yeah, there might be a cost, but like if you're young, like they love to see like that young hunger. And so they just give you, unlimited information. Like
you also have to show that you're going to take action on it. I think that's my big thing. It's like, I literally will give advice to like anyone on the street. Honestly, I love talking about stuff. However, when people come to me and I can tell that they haven't even taken action on the one simple thing, tiny little thing that I put out there, like, how can you expect people to want to give you advice if you aren't going to take action? And I think that's like what you guys have kind of shown. It's like, you're like, okay, we're going to actually make the moves. We're going to do the thing. Right. Yeah. So here's another thing too. So I guess this is just a random question, but what did you guys want to be growing up?
Well, I mean, you got my answer.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, honestly, I come from an immigrant background. So my family immigrated here when I was 6 years old from the Philippines. And I don't know, I didn't really have, I guess, like a dream job per se. It was, you come here, you get a good degree and make good money and get a good job. So I was very practical growing up about those things. And I never really, oh, I'm going to be a doctor or something like that. Like, honestly, and like, my family is full of nurses. So I went down that route just because it was a safe bet, and then found out I hated it and didn't want to go that way. And that's when I turned to business in college. But, I never really had, I don't know, like aspirations to, to be like, a CEO or be at the top. It was just always like be practical in your goals. And that was like what my family had taught me, especially coming from, that immigrant background.
And it was always funny because everybody used to ask me, the typical question you always ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always gave the landlord answer, and they'll always say, no, like career-wise, like a real job. And I would just be
You're like, that is a real job.
And I'm like, I'm sure they have a landlord. Like, what? So.
Yeah, no, and that's so great. So I also come from an immigrant background too. So my parents are originally from Angola, so in West Africa, and like we moved around quite a bit growing up. But like their whole like ethos in life was just like, we're going to give you a better life than we got, and like you should go the stable career route. And because they grew up in war and poverty and all of this stuff. So like I remember at the beginning of my like journey, whenever people asked me what I wanted to do, was always just like, I guess I want to be an engineer. Like, no, I don't want to be an engineer. but that just seemed like the practical answer, and it seemed like the way that I would make money. Yep. But like something I always challenge my students to do is like take a step back. What do you actually want to do? Where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, right? Like don't let life happen to you. You have full control over everything that you can possibly do in this life. And so it's always interesting to see like when people actually take the second to like stop and actually map that out. And then 5 years later, they're doing the thing that they mapped out for themselves. And that intentionality can go so freaking far.
Yeah. Sometimes I catch myself. I'm like, I really own this place. And I
Right.
really own that place. And it's because you're right. Like I did take the time to like, just like stop and just think about it. Like the first 2 years I was out of college, like I just saved up enough money to like be able to live at home and just do whatever I wanted. And like I like started a couple businesses. So like I had the freedom to like think, you know.
That's huge.
And
Okay,
it is
wait. Tell me a
so
little bit more
downplayed.
about that, because that's something I also always preach to people. So you said, how did you save up enough money to be able to take, you said 2 years off or how long
Yeah,
off?
2 years off.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
So tell me about that.
all right. So in college, I had gotten a scholarship that they would pay me like in checks. So I would get like $3 or $4 grand every semester. So I would just like the first 2 years of that, like I blew it. And I'm just like, I'm just like, I started picking up the books and I'm reading books about saving money, real estate, all this stuff. And I'm just like, all right, like I have this little opportunity here
Yep.
that I'm getting. I'm going to school and I'm getting paid. So like, let me just save this money because I don't want to just like feel the pressure of needing a job when I leave school, because I don't want to like just jump into something and then 10 years go by and it's like, what happened?
100%.
So I saved the money and then I lived at home. So I didn't have any costs. It was very minimal. And so I was able to just like start a business. I started doing wholesaling, but that was extremely hard. And I went broke like completely. But then I would do like gig working jobs and everything like that. So like I would save up another $10,000 and then I would be like remapping like what I'm gonna do. And then but I got that like feeling of like not being dependent on like a job or like not having to feel like I needed to do something that I did not want to do because I had money. And that's usually the thing that's going to save you. It's like this line saying like, you know, if you save money, it will save you. And that was definitely the case for my situation the first years. It gave me a lot of perspective. I didn't make about nothing, but like it gave me this perspective that I have now. And so like,
well, yeah. And you were like learning how to make money, right? Like how to actually generate income. Because I think the thing is, right, you know, especially once you go into a corporate job, you don't really learn what actually makes money until you actually build a business. And you're like, oh, got it. This is like 80% marketing and sales. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Well, you know, that freedom to think is always important. So
yeah. And I love that, you know, this is something I preach to people all the time is like, you don't even know what you want to do yet because you haven't had the time and the space to like take a step back and think about it, right?
Even from high school to college, like.
Right. You're just like constantly in a grind. We've been in a grind for like our entire life and just taking a step back. And I know for me, that's kind of like why I got started in house hacking, why I became an entrepreneur. Like I'm like a big wave girl. I go through some waves where I'm like, let's make crap ton of money. And then I am dipping out to Portugal for 3 months and not speaking to anyone, you know? But it gives you that space and that time to like recalibrate and be like, okay, where do I actually want my life to go? What do I want myself to do? And that's why like COVID was such an incredible period for people because it gave people the space. It gave people the time. And I also love that you lived at home as well, because that's what I tell a lot of, especially my younger students, that if you're a few years out of college or whatever, if you can live at home and save a lot of money and then save that towards putting towards a property later down the line that's going to pay for your living expenses so you're still living for free, that is huge. Because what happens to so many people right out of college, right,
it's a trap.
Is
like,
you get a nice, cute apartment. You're so excited. You're making maybe 6 figures. You're like, oh, I'm chilling. And you're like, wait, where's all my money going?
like, and actually, I tell my friends that all the time too. I say, like the freedom that we have today is because of we don't have like anchors. So like the stuff that usually people buy, like a nice house or a nice apartment or a nice car or like, I don't know, they just go on this extravagant vacation. So now they have credit card debt. Like these are all anchors that like just keep you in place. Like, and you want to like, if you got to buy a car, like buy a cheap car, they can pay in cash. If you're going to buy an apartment, be modest. Like if you're going to have a house, make sure somebody else is helping you pay that off or something like that. So that you don't have a big anchor tying you to wherever you're at. that's where I find people at all the time. Like, I can't do this because I got to pay for this. Or, they all these different types of things that just hold people down in the same situation for the rest of their life. And we just, we want to be different. Like, I don't want to.
Well, and that's why I love hacks in general. Cause something I actually preach a lot is I take all the extravagant vacations. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily paying for them all.
Exactly.
I'm always hacking things, right? Like through points and through partnerships and things like that. But it's like, you have to be smart about it, especially in those early stages, right? Because you don't have tons of money sitting in the bank. So what sacrifices are you going to make? What are you going to do so you can get ahead?
100%.
So I guess tell me about like the first, because you said you have 2 properties. So let's go kind of through your first deal. What did that look like for you?
Well, the first deal, so we had seen about probably like 15 houses.
A lot. Yeah.
And so we put in a bunch of offers and we didn't get any of them like first, like as the first offer. We were looking at one house and then my agent called us saying, hey, like this house that you put an offer in, like the first buyer fell through. And like, do you want it? And I was just like, I looked it up the address and I was like, yeah. Like we obviously put an offer in it because we liked it.
Right.
And we did the inspection and then they were saying like, we need a new septic. And so I was like, that's probably why the first people backed out.
Yeah. And so this was in Rhode Island?
This is in Rhode Island. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And, but the neighborhood and the school system was like all great. It needed like work, like cosmetically. So, and I was just like, screw it. Like, let's just get this offer accepted. And so, we went through the motions and we came out of socket to closing for $15,000. So we did.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. So originally it was $10,000, but we had extra money, so we just bought some points down.
Yep.
So and we used like the first time
so I guess,
grant.
Can you explain, just in case anyone doesn't know what buying down points is? Can you just explain what that means?
So usually you have an interest rate that's attached to the mortgage. So let's just say it's 5%. And then the loan officer gives you options to buy down points, which is usually 0.25. And for our instance, 0.25 of a point costs $2,000. And we bought 3 of those. So it dropped our interest rate from, for this example, 5 to 1.25. I mean, 4.25.
So they say 1.25. Where are you getting 1.25
from? So yeah, like you're able to buy down the interest, which saves you like money on the mortgage. So
that is huge. That's awesome. And so how much was this property?
This property was $413,000.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have something exciting happening for you? So if you have been trying to get into real estate investing, but you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe you just don't know where to start or what your next steps are, this event is going to be for you. Now, I do not do this often, but I am going to be hosting a free, and I mean 100% absolutely free, live masterclass on September 17th on how you, yes, you can get started investing in real estate by the end of 2024. Because y'all, we are already halfway through the year, people, okay? Approaching Q4 at this point, and there is so much time for you to make this real estate investing goal of yours a reality. I also think this is going to be my last free masterclass of the year. So this is going to be the last opportunity that you will have to come and learn from me live and get all of your questions answered by yours truly. Now it is time for you to get into the room with people doing exactly the thing that you want to do. So if you want to come to this completely free live event, DM me the word freedom on Instagram or click the link in the show notes to sign up there. And I will see you there. I'm so freaking stoked. Now let's dive back into the show. And so what did your numbers what does your numbers end up looking like on that property? Like, was it covering your mortgage? Were you coming out of pocket a little? Were you cash flowing? What did that look like?
So we first lived in the biggest unit. The biggest unit is 1,500 square feet and it's 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And then the bottom.
Oh, that's a huge duplex.
Yeah. So it's top and bottom. And then the bottom one, the lady was paying $1,050, but we increased it a couple months after we lived there to $1,400. So our mortgage was $2,700. So we only had to pay $1,400 for the difference while we were working, on fixing up the apartment.
And living there.
Yeah, and living there. So it was definitely quite the experience. But before we moved there, our apartment cost $1,500. So we bought a whole house and we saved $100, and we only spent to $15,000.
Well, and this is what I tell people all the time. Yes, it is. When you are able to find a property where you get your whole mortgage covered, oh my God, it's the best feeling ever. Yep. But it's still also great when you're either paying the same amount that you would be for rent or paying less, because you have so many other benefits coming into play. You've got appreciation. You've got equity pay down. You've got there's just so many more tax benefits.
I know it's stuff, right? It's the best. So we had, just been paying $1,400, and we were living there for about a year. And then we had moved out, and I moved out to my friend's house that I was talking about, his duplex. We lived in, he has 4 bedroom, 1 bath. And so we just lived in the other bedroom, and then he gave me an office in the other bedroom. And once we moved out and we rented it, we got $2,400 for the top unit, the 4 bedroom.
Oh, snap. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, then the bottom was bringing in $1,400. And so we make $1,000 off of that.
That is incredible. Yeah. I mean, that is an awesome first house. Again, that's what I tell people all the time too. Run your numbers while you're living there, and run your numbers when you're going to leave as well. Yeah, right? Exactly. Because that's really what matters. Unless you and you could be living in that place forever, whatever, but you're probably eventually going to want to leave. So make sure it still cash flows, even as a pure rental property. So I guess, Abby, tell me what it was like living through the renovation, and did you guys have renovation experiences before?
No, this was our first time. And so we never had any experience doing any of this. And then he was also learning from his friend. And his friend, who we were also renting from at the time, he's a general contractor. Him and his brother, who learned from their father. And so he was basically teaching him the ropes and helping us out at the same time, both him and his brother. But even with that, we wanted to save on labor. So we didn't hire anybody else except his brother to help us out with a couple of things and mess over here. And so he basically throughout that entire year, he learned how to do all of the labor himself, and we bought all of the supplies. However, because he was still learning, it took a lot more time. And like I said, this was 1 bathroom. So for an entire month, we didn't have a bathroom.
Oh no!
We didn't have a bathroom. But luckily for that, we had a membership to Planet Fitness. So if we needed a shower, we could go there.
Oh my gosh.
And there was a gas station right near the house. And so we had to go use the bathroom. It's really, really bad. We just go to the gas station.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the clerks are always hey, I know my name. And
wondering why we're going in there constantly and just not buying anything and just going in and out. Sorry, we just have to. And they were open fairly late because it's a gas station, and it was one of those ones that had the Duckins in there with all of the snacks that you can go and grab in.
Yeah.
So luckily, they opened late and we could go there when we needed to do our business. But we did that. We did that for a month straight. And for me, fortunately, I didn't have to go to Planet Fitness that many times, because we did just go to our friend's house in Attleboro, just 20 minutes out, and I would shower at his place. At least we had some saviors, but definitely that's gonna be a story that I'll live down for the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I literally love everything that you said about that, because I have been there and I have done it too. So I know there was a property that I was renovating with a friend of mine, and we literally bought it sight unseen, over 1,500 miles away. Got to the property and we're like, oh, this is in way worse shape than we were expecting. And so we had no intention originally of changing out the toilet and changing out the vanity, all this stuff. And we get there, we're like, no, we have to. There is no other way. So we're YouTube universitying it. We're 100%. Changing out these toilets. We did it wrong. It's leaking. I remember there was one, we also didn't have a toilet for a few days. and like my friend, she like pooped in the yard. And then my dog, like we had all of our dogs with us. So it was like my dog and her 2 dogs. And then my dog rolled in her poop in the yard. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is ridiculous.
The best stories to tell them. Like, great memories. Like.
Truly. And it like builds character. And it's so funny because now I like outsource a lot of stuff. Although sometimes I'm like, I'm going to DIY it. But like that, it builds so much character, and it also builds so much appreciation for the work, right? Like, and I feel like now, like whenever I do hire contractors, I'm like, okay, I know how much work that actually is. Like, that doesn't need to be that much versus like, yes, take my money, feel free. I don't want to do this. You do it for me, right?
100%. Like,
oh my gosh. And so another thing that I love too is that you moved in with your friend, right? And so, like, even when I bought my first duplex, after 8 months, I decided to go traveling. But for like, I remember I rented out my house and then moved in with my parents for like a month or 2, just because I was just like, I quit my job. So I'm like, I really want to bring in more income, number one. And number 2, it's like, might as well just make money off of that property because then I'll be like cash flowing even more. And so it's like, sometimes you do have to make like those small sacrifices to get ahead. And that's totally okay. It builds character. It's part of the story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, where are you guys at now? So you're in your second house hack now, or is that rented out? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we currently live in it right now. So here's the story for this one. So like for tax purposes, last year I was like, I need to find another house. Like,
yes,
just because like I was trying to like get out of our friend's house and then like find another opportunity. And so we went to go see, I don't know how many this time. It's so many. And we get to this one that we're currently living in. And there was like 100 people at the open house.
Oh my gosh.
And the realtor was like running like an hour late.
Yeah.
And like almost left and was just like, I'm just not going to do this. Like, we're just going to go home. And then the lady finally pulled up. And so we went through it. And then obviously it looks like a wreck. And I'm just like, oh, opportunity. So like,
yes,
I love it like that. There's a lot of people that probably got deterred from it, but I'm just like, oh, it's a great opportunity. And so we put in our offer, and then, what's it called? Then we just kind of went about our lives like a couple weeks later. And I got a call from a realtor saying like, hey, like they accepted your offer. And I was like, cool. I was not expecting it because I was just so discouraged for the previous 3 months because just like every offer we got was just getting declined because like people were just beating us with offers.
Yeah.
Like people are.
What loan were you guys using? And what loan did you said for the first one you did first time home, or can you repeat?
Yeah, we did a 5% conventional loan.
Okay, perfect.
So like the conventional is nice because, there's not like a ton of like prerequisites and like
stipulations.
Yeah, stipulations. So like recommendation, if you get a loan, just get a 5% conventional.
Yeah.
And then the second time around, we put 20% down.
Okay, yeah.
And so like we just did it because like the numbers would be better. But when my agent called me and said we want it because we're putting down 20%.
Yes.
Even though we weren't the highest offer by like a lot. Like there was a lot of people that he was saying that was in front of us. But since we put down 20%, like they felt way more secure that we're going to close on that.
No, that is huge. That's so huge. And it's so funny because even right now, like I just put an offer in on a property, or not just put an offer in, but just I'm under contract on a property now. That's a house hack here in Denver. But like we went in on the offer, like 40% down, 50% down, no problem. And like we're actually going cash on it. But like it makes your offer that much stronger, right? Like, especially if you're in a competitive market. And here's the thing too, some properties like will never be in a competitive market, whereas others will, right? And so you just have to become familiar with how fast properties are going in your market and really position yourself so that you can be competitive.
Yeah. And so like we were able to save up all the money because not only were we renting out the other house for $1,000 a month, we were living at my friend's house for only $1,000 a month, everything included. And we were able to save everything she was making and everything I was making on top of everything the house was making. So like like once you just start house hacking and like being able to find places to live for cheap, like what you make and keep, like you could save and accumulate a lot faster. And so we put down to 20%. The downstairs unit was pretty messed up. So I just completely remodeled it for 3 months.
Was it DIY again, or did you guys hire that out?
DIY. There's some things like we had to get a new like water heater and boiler combo that was like 10,000 that like I can't DIY that.
Yeah.
It's just like stuff like that, but like a lot of the
like plumbing, all the plumbing stuff, we're definitely hiring people.
Yeah, but DIY'd a lot of it, and then the people that were living at the other house that was making us $1,000 a month, they said like they were going to move into the bottom downstairs unit because I had some other people that wanted to live in the other unit. And so they were like, oh yeah, because it was cheaper, it would be cheaper for them to live here. And then at the same time when we were buying the property, her sisters needed a place to live because just like the rent in Boston was just getting just absurd and just like, you know, they were just like in a bind. And I was like, perfect. Like we're about to buy a house. We have 2 extra rooms.
Yep.
And so that's what we did. And so the downstairs unit brings in $1,850 and each of her sisters pay $700 each. So that comes out to $3,250 and our mortgage is $3,180.
Awesome.
And so like we make $70 off of this and then we make $1,000 off the other house and then we're able to save everything that we make.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's what people don't talk about. Like house hacking, it's really about the savings that you make by not having to pay your living expenses.
Yeah, game changer.
Right? Because the most, like when anyone looks at their expenses, the thing that they're spending the most on is usually their living expenses. It's rent, it's your mortgage, it's your utility bills, all of that. So it's like, if you can get that completely taken away and you take your rent from, even if it's $1,500 to zero or $1,800 to $1,000, like those $800, you can be putting that towards savings and doing literally anything else with it.
Like literally.
It also helps though that we have a paid off car. So we don't have any expenses for a car payment. And like car payments today, especially with these interest rates, are wild. Like I know people were paying like literally $1,000 car payment and then paying insurance on top of that.
Yeah, it's pretty frequent here, especially like in Boston. People just gotta have their luxury cars and such.
Oh my gosh!
But we live for free here. Well, make $70, but essentially live for free. And so I forgot what I was gonna say.
And so I guess when you move out, how much will you be making?
Oh, so when we move out, we'll be making around like $800 to $1,000.
Perfect. Yeah.
And like our interest rate is like really high. It's 8.25. Yeah. But
wow. That is really
we're still able to like make $1,000 to $800.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Is if you can make the numbers work at those high interest rates, like you're golden. You're just fine. You're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. So
we have the highest interest rate that I think that we know out of everybody.
Yeah. People say like,
I was going to say, so why is your interest rate that high? Because even I purchased a couple of investment properties over the last year. My interest rate, even with an investment property loan, is like 7.6.
So
we bought at the end of the 2023. And so like that, at that time, it's like interest rates were still fluctuating.
Yeah.
And we literally like the offer came in right at the peak.
Like really.
And it's like, if you can make the numbers work, whatever, at the end of the day.
And so it's kind of like a situation where it's like, I mean, this is probably peak interest rates. So like when they come back down, we just refinance and save $100 off. So like that will probably boost the cash flow too. So it's kind of like a win-win situation. If the numbers work, like it doesn't really matter what the interest rate is as long as the numbers work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing. There's so many people right now waiting for interest rates to come down. And the thing is the market's already like somewhat competitive in some asset classes, right?
Yeah.
And so if you think that when interest rates come down, it's going to be easier to buy a property. Like I was the same thing with you guys. When I was purchasing, I put like 10 offers in, I was going to FHA, got beat out on every single one. I was just like, how am I supposed to get a property again?
Like I tell people this all the time. Like, you understand, everybody is thinking like you.
Mhm.
So like, what makes you think that you're going to be the only one at open houses?
Yeah. Whereas like the property I'm under contract on right now, I literally got it, like it got appraised in March this year for $180,000 more than I have it under contract for.
Wow.
And like that is only possible because the interest rates are so high right now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's insane. Oh my gosh. Amazing. Well, okay. So I know we're running out of time here, but I am going to ask you the 3 interview questions, the final questions that I ask every single person. So for you guys, and this is, you know, since I don't know as much about your story, like, what does your ideal perfect day look like? And what are you like doing this for? Like, what are you striving for here within the next 5 or 10 years?
Definitely in the next 5 years. Well, we want to start a family in the next 3 to 5 years. And obviously, she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. So we're definitely come true. Just so like, you know, she gets what she wants and I get what I want, which is real estate too. But an ideal day, like the DIY stuff, like I figured out that I really like to do, like, you know, making an ugly place nice. So like, if I can, you know, make that a reality every day, that's kind of what I'll be working towards, like being able to like renovate and fix up properties and stuff like that. So
I love that. That's awesome. I guess anything to add, Abby?
Well, I mean, so like he said, our goal in the long term is for me to like stay at home. So that's basically what we're gonna be aiming towards. A lot of people, every single time I've said this, they're like, no, it's just completely impossible. Like you're gonna have to be like a working mom. And for me, like family is everything. And like in this economy too, I'm like, I don't want to have to pay other people to watch my child, and then also just to work for other people to watch my child.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, it just completely defeats the purpose. And, you know, real estate is helping us be like able to do that.
Yeah.
And so we're also paying for the wedding ourselves, which is happening next year. And we're able to do all of that with, you know, everything that we're doing now and everything that we've sacrificed the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Especially me, because like I didn't have any trouble like saving. So like I've been working since I was like 16 years old. So everything that I made since then on had been saved and went towards these houses, you know? And so like I don't want to have to continue to work for the rest of my life if I don't have to.
No, I love that. I love that. That's amazing. And I totally feel that. So I don't know if I'm kind of psycho and I love working, but whenever I do have kids, I'm like, well, I know things are going to change. I'm just so aware. I have so many mom friends and like things do change and your priorities change. And I want to give myself the freedom and the availability where if I want to take a year off or take 5 years off or do whatever I can. Right. And that's like why we do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what is your mantra or something that you just tell yourself every single day or like consistently? It doesn't have to be every single day.
I try to like just say 1% better every day. Like it really just takes like, just a little bit at a time. And like these last 2 years, we've been just doing the renovations and remodeling like every day, like for the last 2 years. So it's just been like every day we go in, all right, 1% today, we did a little bit better. And it's just inching towards the goal and it finally arrived. So
I love that. How about you, Abby? Is there anything that
consistency and discipline is key. Like, and that's pretty much what I tell myself every day, because obviously it gets, you know, being in the corporate world can get a little mundane. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be here for a long time. I'm not going to be here forever. So as long as I'm consistent and I'm disciplined and we continue to be consistent and disciplined, then, you know, we'll get to our goals and we'll get there a lot faster.
I love that. Amazing. Okay. So last question. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth, it's more about freedom. It's just an optionality. Like if you have options, I just think you're wealthy. Like it doesn't, you don't even have to be like have multi-millions. Like if you could just like, live for free, like you have options, you know, you just have a lot of like excess money now to do whatever you want with that money. And like, that's just kind of what we do it for. We definitely don't do it for like materialistic things. We're very modest people. So like, it's definitely just for the freedom and the flexibility and the option it gives us. Like, that's what wealth means to me.
Yeah. And then
I love that.
For me, it's having more time with the people that you love, like spending with your family, and you know, like especially us, because we want to in the next couple of years want to start building our family ourselves. So, you know, to be able to have that option to spend time with, you know, the children that we're going to be raising, and not have to rely on, you know, childcare or daycare, and that's what. Time and freedom.
Yeah, no, even though I feel like it's the most cliche answer.
Yeah, right.
Gives.
No, for sure. But that's where, like, literally for everyone, I've had, at this point, interviewed so many people. I have coached so many people. And it's like, at the end of the day, what people want. Time freedom, financial freedom, and what is it? Oh, location freedom. Like that's generally the three things that people want. And then there are underlying things that go into each one, of course. But like at the baseline level, that's all people really want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So we're not different.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, this was so freaking wonderful. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you? Maybe they're also looking at investing in Rhode Island or in Boston, and they just like don't know how to get started. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
You can find me on Instagram at Messy_617. That's pretty much all I use, and I usually don't even use it. So like, technically, like I would know like you guys are from the podcast, so.
Amazing. You know, because you saw the comment that I made on Instagram,
right?
But I'm at Abby_flawless on Instagram, and then I am on Facebook still because you know I still have to connect with family there. So
I know
Abigail
Facebook for like Facebook groups at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm honestly a lot of it for like the yard sale stuff and and Facebook Marketplace.
Well, and honestly, finding tenants on there can be great if you use Facebook Marketplace or if you use like local Facebook groups. Every once in a while, I find someone on there. So it's like the new Craigslist.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know that your story is going to inspire so many.
Yeah, great.
So thank you so much for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you, and don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.